Hi there, in this video we're going to learn about graphing one variable inequalities or inequalities in one variable. So why do we need to know how to do this? It helps us visually see all the answers to an inequality and to help remind us that there are more than one answer. So before we talk about graphing, I just want to review some inequality symbols with you. So if we look here, when we have this symbol right here, this means less than. And remember, we read math from left to right, so when I look here, I'm reading here, this is going to be less than over here. When there's a line underneath here, it's really a shorthand for an equals. We just don't write it as an equals. We just write a one line. So this means less than or equal to. Then when I flip my sign around the other way, down here, this means greater than. So this on this side is going to be greater than this side. And again, with this equals down below, it's greater than or equal to. Remember, it's just, we don't write a full equals, we just write one line. So then we have this side is greater than or equal to this side. Okay, so when we're graphing, though, we're going to use a number line, and then we have to determine what kind of dot we're going to use. So we have to know the difference between the dots. We have what's called an open circle, which is this one, and a closed circle. We're going to use an open circle when I have a less than or a greater than symbol, because it means that my point is not included. I'm going to use a closed circle when I have a less than or equal to or greater than or equal to inequality, because that means that my point is included. So what does it mean included versus not included? If something is included, if I had something, for example, like x is greater than or equal to 4, that means that it could be 4 or it could be bigger. But if I had something that was just x is greater than 4, it doesn't mean it can equal 4, but it can be anything that's bigger than 4. So even like 4.00001, that number is bigger than 4, but 4 is just not allowed. It's not included in my answer. So when we're looking at a graph, an open circle tells us that it's not included, and a closed circle tells us that it is. So let's graph some inequalities. So here, we'll just move one at a time. So graph the inequalities below. So here's how I like to do it. I can kind of show you, think about it. You can think about it in one of two ways. So the first thing I like to do is I like to find my point. So this says, if we read this out loud, remember we read from left to right, this says x is less than 2. So I'm going to go on my number line, and I always graph above my number line so that I can actually still read. Less than means I'm going to have an open circle, and then I have to decide which side is less than, okay? So my two choices are I can shade over here or I can shade over here, okay? So which numbers are less than 2? Less than means smaller. So what side of my numbers are smaller than 2? On the left-hand side over here. So when I draw in my line, I just draw on an arrow like this and put a line on it. I'm sorry, I draw a line and put an arrow on it. Said that backwards. Now you can also think about it this way. Here's the trick. This only works when the variable's on the left-hand side. I'm going to just rewrite this so that you can see x is less than 2. I'm going to rewrite it this way for a reason. Because if the variable's on the left, if you turn this into a line, it tells you, hey, by the way, it's pointing to the left. That means it's going to be less than. It only works if the variable's on the left-hand side, though. Let's try another one. This one says y is greater than or equal to negative 20. Okay, so because I have greater than or equal to, because I have that equal to, I'm going to have a closed circle, and that's going to go over negative 20. Now, some people do it on the number line like this. I just tend to, because if I make a mistake, I just tend to do it above, that I don't have to erase my whole number line and start all over again. Plus, I think it looks nicer. Okay, so now I have to determine which side of my number line am I going to be on, and I'm going to be on this left side over here, or am I going to be on my right side over here? Okay, so I want to know, let's read it again. This says y is greater than or equal to means more than. What are numbers that are more than negative 20? More is always going to be to the right. The bigger numbers are to the right, the smaller numbers are to the left. So if more then means then they're going to be to the right, then I'm going, oops, I should probably do the same color. Then I'm going to the right this way. And again, remember, if I use y is greater than or equal to negative 20 and use this as an arrow, it's going to tell me, hey, by the way, remember you're pointing to the right. But remember, it only works when the variable is on the left-hand side. That's the only time that trick works. So when we do something like this looks a little bit different. This says 20 is greater than w. It looks different because my variable's not on the left-hand side anymore. So I have to make sure I'm thinking about in my brain how to do this because it's opposite. So again, I have 20 is greater than w. So my number is 20, so I'm going to at least put a dot over 20, and I know it's going to be an open dot. Now I have to figure out, where are my numbers going to be shaded? Am I going to be on the left-hand side here, or am I going to be on the right? Okay, so this says that 20 is bigger than w. W is just a number, so 20 is going to be bigger than my number. So if 20 is going to be bigger than my number, then my number is actually smaller than 20. So I'm really going to be going this way. Now here's the other trick. When the variable's on the right-hand side like this, I'm going to rewrite this as if I was looking in the mirror. So this translates to w and is, you read it this way, is less than 20. It flips the whole thing around. Then you can use that trick where you say, oh, by the way, I'm really shading to the left. So when the variable's on the right like it is here, you kind of flip it over, like you think of this as a mirror and you flip it. You reflect it over, and then that will help you rewrite your inequality so that you can use the shading trick and read it the way that most inequalities are written. Okay, now we're going to go backwards. Now we want to write an inequality from the graph. Okay, so I'm going to look here, and if you want, you can use the trick that we just learned. So this one says, here's my pointer. So I'm going to the right is my arrow. And we know that to the right is going to mean greater than. So I'm going to have let me pick a different color here. I'm going to have a greater than, okay? And my number is always going to be, my variable is going to be in the left, because if I'm going to help use that trick, that's where your variable has to go. And then my number is negative 40. So let's make sure that makes sense. So I have x is greater than. Greater than means bigger, and bigger is always to the right side on the number line. Negative 40. Now, is that correct? Is it greater than, or is it greater than or equal to? It's greater than or equal to. And how come there's an equal to? Because this is a closed circle right here. So don't forget that when you're writing your inequality. Okay, and let's try this last one here. Okay, now this one I have an open circle and my arrow is going to the left, so this means it's going to be a less than. Now is it less than or equal to? It's just less than because this is an open circle. And so my variable is going to go on the left, and I always just typically pick x. If they don't tell you, you can pick whatever variable you want. Typically I default to x. Now what number is this over? This to me looks like it's about halfway between 2 and 3, so I'm going to call it 2.5. Okay, so let's make sure this makes sense. X is less than, and less than means it's on the smaller side, so the left side of the number line, and my number, where am I at? 2.5. Perfect. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Good luck.